This is the hardest bit, getting up. I've had a few practice runs, so I think I'm okay. Okay, hello everyone, and I'm really pleased to be here at Durham University as part of TEDx. This has been a dream of mine for a number of years, so to stand here and do it is really inspiring for me. I want to talk to you today about the patterns that I see when I work with people, and I get the honour of working with people across the world. And one of those patterns is the fact that we all have dreams, goals and ambitions, but we put them over there on the horizon. So we can see them, but they're not quite in reach. And we tell ourselves that we're going to do them next year, or that we're going to do them when we've got a qualification, when we've got a bit more experience, when we've lost a little bit of weight. Whatever it is, we tell ourselves these patterns and we make excuses. So sometimes we never actually get there, and we constantly work in the future and never focus really on what's happening right now. There's many reasons why we do this. Some of that's internal, so our own limiting beliefs, what we've been told and how we've been brought up. But sometimes it's external pressures, and that's where stereotypes come in. And I want to talk to you today about stereotypes, specifically around disability. So there's many stereotypes that exist in the world, and in disability itself, there are many different types of stereotypes. Disability is often something that, when somebody is diagnosed as being disabled, stops them from moving forward because society puts patterns in there and tells us things and makes assumptions. One famous study around stereotyping is around the glass ceiling. It's often linked to gender issues. What that says is that women in organisations have a limit as to how far they can go, after which they can't get any higher, and that's the glass ceiling. And some people do break through those. An example is Sheryl Sandberg. She's the Chief Operating Officer of Facebook, and she's a famous TED speaker, and it's definitely worth watching that speech. She's broke through those glass ceilings, and she continues to help women do that. In 1994, Cornell University in America took that study and attributed it to disability. So by putting it to disability, they also identified that the glass ceiling exists for disabled people in organisations as well. What I'm doing at the moment, I'm actually doing a PhD at the moment in the university in America, and I'm studying this. And for me, what I find is it's more of a glass door than it is a glass ceiling. For many disabled people, they don't get the opportunity to go into organisations in the first place to prove that they've got this talent and ability. So they don't get to the glass ceiling. There's the door before you even get in there. If we think about what we mean by disability, the UK Equality Act defines disability as being a life-limiting illness, something that is physical or mental that's likely to last for more than 12 months. And it has to have a limiting effect on life. So in the UK, there are currently 11 million people living with a life-limiting illness or disability, as defined by the Equality Act. So if we look at that in terms of statistics, the government says that that is 16% of the working population. So that's almost 1 in 5 people of working age that have a disability. What's also true about disability is it's not always visible. Some disabilities are hidden. But yet still we have this battle around how does that look in organisations and how does that stop people getting into organisations and following these dreams. Of the people who are disabled, 46% of them at working age are in employment, contrasted to 76% of people who are not disabled. So there's a 30 percentage point gap in those statistics. Now that seems too much to me. That doesn't seem realistic. And I do believe that there's barriers that are getting in the way. When I speak to organisations about this and talk to them about it, there's assumptions that come with this stereotype. So many organisations believe that a disabled person will have more sickness, that they'll have more time off work, or that it's going to cost more money because they have to make adjustments or change things, or that person's going to sue them because the UK legislation under discrimination means that they could sue them, or maybe they're going to leave. So quite often organisations choose not to employ somebody with a disability, and that's where stereotyping and discrimination kicks in. And that represents 2 million people that have the potential to go into the job market, to do a great job and to deliver something amazing in organisations that are potentially being overlooked. Now, when you apply for a job, you have an application form, and there's a box that you have to tick. Do you consider yourself to have a disability? So if you've got a disability, you've got a clear choice. Do I tick yes and potentially be excluded from the job market? Or do I click no, which legally you can do, but actually there's a breach of trust there with the employer because you've effectively lied? But what do I know about all of this? On the 23rd of January 2013, I sat in a doctor's waiting room waiting for results of a test. When I went in, he showed me a picture of my brain much like this and showed me that I have 3 lesions on my brain, or scars. And on that day, he told me 3 things. One is that I am disabled and I'll be disabled for the rest of my life. 2 is that I'm likely to get depression. And 3 was that I had multiple sclerosis, or MS. For those of you who don't know, MS is a life-limiting illness that's not curable, where your immune system attacks your nervous system with devastating consequences potentially. It's unpredictable and unknown, but straight away in that moment, I had a stereotype and I had a label. And it became clear to me that I had 2 choices on that day. One was I could walk out that doctor's office and go down that path of depression and letting that stereotype take control of me and live in that life. Or actually, I could walk down another path. Where is it? Oh. Another path. I don't know where the slide is. I could walk down another path. And that path was of possibility, of what is possible, what I could do. And that's the path that I decided to take. Will Smith, the actor, says that the quickest path to mediocrity is to be realistic. So I decided that I'm not going to be realistic. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to break down those glass doors. And I'm going to do that for myself, but I'm going to do that for other people more importantly. If you think about an egg like this, when an egg is broken from the outside by external pressure, life ends. So if we let stereotypes break us, then effectively it stops dreams coming true. But if that egg is broken from the inside out, then life begins. And that's what I want to do, is to help people start their lives regardless of circumstance. I can honestly say that MS woke me up. And if I could go back to that day in that doctor's office and have them tell me that that brain scan showed nothing and that I just had a trapped nerve or something else, I can honestly stand here today and say I wouldn't take it. Because if I hadn't have been diagnosed with MS, I would have been living my life looking at the things on the horizon and just going through that normal pattern of behaviour. When I got diagnosed, I made the decision that I was going to break down those glass doors and I was going to do the things that were on the horizon. And that's what I did. So I did the things that I planned to do. I signed up to start doing my PhD. There was a leadership programme that I wanted to do for years and years and years that meant taking 10 months out, that I didn't have the time to do or couldn't afford to do. And I decided I was going to go and do that, and I've just completed that programme. And that programme connected me with people across the world to allow me to understand how they work and to be inspired by those people. And those connections are starting to open up new possibility. I always dreamed of having an international business, and through those connections, we now have an office in Madrid, and we're working with consultants in Madrid. And I'm also writing a book about my experience and about leadership, linked to the research. And I get to do that with someone. So I get to do that with a really inspiring lady who is Spanish and lives in Greece. So the world starts to open up, and I start to see beyond the stereotypes and start to see what's possible. And above all, I knew I wanted to inspire people, and that's about sharing stories. And I want to do that on an international stage. And in February this year, I actually delivered a keynote speech at a conference in Miami for women, Hispanic women, to inspire them to step forward out of their stereotypes and move forward. So what does this all mean? This means that we've got to start breaking down these glass doors, that we've got to stop looking at the stereotypes that exist for every single person, and we've got to see the person inside and look at the humanity of organisations, see the human beings that make a difference in organisations. That has to be our quest. That has to be what we do. When I work with organisations, unfortunately, what they tend to do is to try to comply because they're scared of what legislation can do around being sued. So I look at the Equality Act, which undoubtedly is a step forward, but it's not enough. All that does is encourage organisations to tick boxes and make sure that they comply. And the reality is, most discrimination happens in people's heads. So most of us are trained to what we think, to be able to filter that and to say what is right, what should be said. So we need to change mindset, not put in policies. And I want to work in a world where organisations rip up HR manuals, where we get rid of the model of HR that we have right now today, where it's about conformance and it's about control. And look at culture. Look at how we make organisations more agile and more focused so that they can go forward and actually be more successful. Because I strongly believe the more diverse an organisation is, the more effective that organisation will be from a business perspective in terms of profitability. And I've seen that happen. And there's many organisations out there, such as Google, who really do embrace diversity and have seen the success of doing so. So this is a mindset change that we need to create. It's a new model of HR and it's a new model of leadership. And it's the model of leadership that sees the human being, that doesn't see the label, doesn't see the stereotype, doesn't tick boxes, but looks at how do I transform lives and transform organisations by seeing the individual. And that's my quest. And as I share my story, what I want to do is inspire everyone to step forward and do what they dream of doing, regardless of the glass doors that are in the way. It's time to start breaking them, and it's time to do it now. Thank you, everyone.